Imagine yourself stepping onto the red planet, a dream of adventure and glory. The reality, however, is far from a romantic space odyssey. You are about to experience one full day as a Mars colonist, and it's a day filled with hardship. From the moment you awaken in a cramped habitat, millions of kilometers from home, every task is a test of endurance. You're isolated, vulnerable to harsh radiation, physically overworked, and emotionally stretched thin. By the day's end, you'll understand why you wouldn't last a day as a Mars colonist. Morning in the Martian habitat comes not with a cheery sunrise, but with the soft hum of life support machines. You wake up in a windowless sleeping pod, essentially a closet-sized compartment barely large enough to sit up in. It's one of only 4 tiny crew quarters in the entire outpost. The lights are dim, set to a 24-hour Earth cycle to mimic home, but Mars's day, Sol, is 39 minutes longer than Earth's. This slight difference has begun messing with your body clock, contributing to restless nights. As you rub your eyes, you recall seeing brief flashes of light in the dark last night. Not a dream, but cosmic rays hitting your optic nerves, a stark reminder that radiation is ever present here. Stepping out of your sleeping pod, you stretch within the low 0.38 g gravity of Mars. It's easier on your joints than Earth's gravity, but don't be fooled, the toll on your body is severe. Even in partial gravity, your muscles and bones are weakening over time. You know that without rigorous exercise, astronauts can lose up to 1% bone density per month in weightlessness, and while Mars's gravity will slow that loss, it won't stop it. The colony's doctor, who is really just a crew member with basic medical training, has warned everyone, exercise is not optional if you want to avoid returning to Earth with fragile bones or never returning at all. As you stand in the habitat's main room, the reality of your extreme isolation sinks in. Outside this module's thin walls, Mars is a frozen desert with a toxic, unbreathable atmosphere averaging -60 degrees Celsius. You can't step outside for a breath of fresh air. There is none. Your entire world is confined to about 50 square meters of living space per person inside this shelter. That's roughly the area of 2 small bedrooms for all your cooking, working, exercise, and rest. Compared to the countless places you could go on Earth in a day, here you have nowhere else to go. Day in and day out, it's the same walls, the same few faces. It's not just the physical confinement. You feel the psychological weight of isolation. There's no stepping out to see friends or family. In fact, your loved ones are tens of millions of kilometers away. On a blue dot you might glimpse in the sky on a clear night. Real-time conversation with Earth is impossible. Even at best, radio signals take about 10 minutes one way to reach home. At their farthest, they take 20 minutes or more. This means every call is essentially voicemail. As you woke up, perhaps you saw a recorded video message from your family that arrived while you slept, and you replied with your own recording, knowing they won't receive it until later. The time delay and distance make you painfully aware that you truly are on your own. The Mars crew are the most isolated humans to have ever lived, and humans are not built to handle such isolation well. Decades of research on Earth has shown that prolonged social isolation can lead to depression, insomnia, anxiety, fatigue, boredom, and emotional instability. And that's among astronauts who knew they would eventually go home. You have no such guarantee. Before you even begin your day's work, you take a moment to collect yourself mentally. Homesickness tugs at your mind. You have 3 crewmates, the only 3 people you can talk to face-to-face for perhaps years. They are both your lifeline, and at times the source of your frustration. It's hard to keep harmony when confined together 24/7. You recall a warning from psychologists: even the most stable individuals can struggle when Earth is no longer in view. Isolation, confinement, and constant surveillance, every corner of the base has a camera for safety and research, create a heavy mental health burden. You shake off the thought and suit up in simple indoor wear to start the morning routine. After all, on Mars, your day is literally a fight for survival, and there is much to do. The first order of business each morning: personal hygiene and gearing up for work. In the tiny bathroom corner of the habitat, There's no long hot shower to look forward to. Water is far too precious. Instead, you make do with a damp cloth or sponge bath. The colony's life support system recycles every drop of water, aiming for near total reuse. NASA aims to recover about 98% of all water in closed-loop systems, so the water you use to wipe your face was likely your sweat or urine a day ago. If that sounds gross, consider that the filtration is so advanced, the water is cleaner than what most Earth municipal systems produce, essentially distilled and purified to pristine quality. Still, it's hard to forget the crew's running joke. Today's coffee is yesterday's coffee. After patting yourself down with a moist towel, you turn to the toilet unit, a compact vacuum-powered commode. Using it is an exercise in careful procedure. You must seal the lid, pressurize the waste container, and hope it doesn't clog. Going to the bathroom, here is an ordeal of noise and caution. Waste must be treated and recycled too. Nothing can be wasted on Mars is an unofficial motto. Solid waste is collected for eventual processing, perhaps composting for fertilizer, and urine is sent through the recycler. It's a far cry from the comfort of an Earth bathroom, but you've adapted to the use, seal, and sanitize routine. As you finish up, you note on the schedule that one of you will need to perform the weekly maintenance on the waste system later, a dirty but vital job to keep the colony habitable. Now breakfast time. You float a packet of instant coffee. Your hand instinctively lifts it too fast in the low gravity, nearly flinging it to the ceiling, and mix in recycled water, heating it to a lukewarm temperature. The menu this morning is the same as most mornings. A rehydrated serving of oats with powdered milk and a few dried fruit pieces. On good days you might get a spoon of homemade jam from the greenhouse berries, a rare treat. More often, it's basic and bland. Variety is a luxury you don't have. The shelf-stable pantry was stocked months or years ago, and despite efforts to grow some fresh food, meals are repetitive. You've been cycling through the same limited menu for weeks, and menu fatigue is real. Astronauts who eat the same thing over and over tend to lose their appetite, which can lead to weight loss and health issues. You force yourself to eat every bite of the mushy oatmeal. You cannot afford to skip calories, no matter how dull the taste. Around the small fold-out table, you and your crewmates eat in relative silence, each reading through the day's task list on a tablet. The only noises are the hum of air filters and an occasional crackle from the radio. There's a brief light-hearted exchange when someone notes the date. Back on Earth, it's a holiday that you all loved celebrating. A crewmate offers a wry smile. Let's celebrate by fixing that CO2 scrubber today. Everyone chuckles softly. It's a gentle, subtle humor, the kind that keeps you sane out here. Jokes are understated. After all, nothing is truly funny when the stakes are this high. But you take what laughter you can, and the camaraderie over a shared hardship is the only balm for missing home. With breakfast done, it's time for the morning systems check. The daily ritual that determines if you'll survive another day. Each of you has assigned duties, and yours this morning is to inspect the life support systems. This is arguably the most important job in the colony, performed at least twice a day by a colonist on rotation. The natural Martian environment cannot support human life, so if your habitat's life support falters, so do you. You float down, well, bounce down lightly, given the gravity to the lower deck where the machinery lives. Lining the walls are tanks, pipes, gauges, and wires, the mechanical organs that provide air, water, and heat. You methodically go through a checklist. The readouts show OVI levels in the habitat atmosphere are normal for now. You check the electrolysis unit that produces oxygen from water, and the chemical scrubbers that remove CO2 exhaled by the crew. A small warning light flashes. One of the CO2 scrubber filters is nearing saturation. You'll need to swap it out with a fresh cartridge today. If CO2 levels rise too high, you could pass out or even suffocate, so this task can't wait. Life support maintenance takes up a lot of the settlers' time. The mission handbook had warned, now you understand why. A series of pumps and filters gurgle quietly, processing wastewater from yesterday. The system, similar to the International Space Station's, captures moisture from the air, your breath and sweat, and recycles urine into clean water. You note the filter pressures. Everything seems within nominal range. The system claims it's recovering 95% of all water, slightly under the 98% goal, possibly because the brine processor that wrings out the last drops from urine brine needs maintenance. Indeed, one task on today's list is to assist in replacing a bladder membrane in that unit, a job as glamorous as it sounds. You can't help but muse that water is life on Mars. Each person needs around a gallon, 3-4 liters per day for drinking, food prep and hygiene, and without constant recycling you'd run dry quickly. There's no running stream or groundwater tap here. Your tiny water cycle is all you have. You glance at the power storage readouts. Large solar panels outside gathered energy yesterday and charged the colony's batteries. It's early morning now, so batteries are discharging to power the lights, heaters, and pumps. So far so good, unless a dust storm rolls in and chokes off the sun for days. Mars is infamous for dust storms that can grow to envelop the whole planet, plunging the surface into darkness for weeks. In fact, a global storm a few years back killed NASA's solar-powered Opportunity rover when its batteries drained. Your colony has a small nuclear generator as backup for heat and emergency power, but it's not enough to run everything. Every morning you anxiously check the weather reports from the satellite orbiter. Is any major dust storm brewing? Today's forecast looks clear, a small relief. Still, you'll likely need to go outside later to brush the ever-settling fine dust off those solar panels, a routine chore after breakfast every few sols. The habitat's internal temperature is a comfortable 21 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, a pleasant oasis compared to the brutal cold just beyond the hull. The atmospheric pressure inside is about 0.7 atm, a compromise to reduce stress on the structure and to make any EVA suit transitions easier. You verify that the pressure hasn't dropped overnight. A leak would be catastrophic. Fortunately, the gauges hold steady. The habitat's walls are built with multiple layers, including a tough outer shell and a layer of locally gathered Martian soil, regolith, piled around parts of the base. That regolith serves as insulation and radiation shielding, since Mars has no thick atmosphere or magnetic field to shield you from cosmic rays. It's unsettling to know that even inside you receive many times the radiation you would on Earth. On Mars you might get as much as 20 to 50 times an Earth year's radiation dose in just 1 year. Every day you spend here quietly increases your lifetime cancer risk. It's an invisible threat, but a constant one. For now, all you can do is monitor the sensors and make sure the habitat's radiation alarms for sudden solar flares are functional. Having checked the machines, you report your findings via tablet to the team. There's a collective responsibility here. If any system status looks off, the entire crew discusses and addresses it. This morning you highlight that CO cell filter needing replacement and note the solar panel dust you observed on camera feeds. Your crewmates sighs at the prospect of another panel cleaning EVA. It's only mid-morning, and you all already feel the weight of the chores, but you press on. On Mars, neglecting a chore isn't an option. The price of procrastination could be your life. By late morning, it's time to suit up for the day's big task, repairing a critical piece of equipment outside the habitat. The CO2 scrubber filter you flagged needs replacing, and some of the solar panel arrays could use a cleaning while you're out. Stepping outside on Mars is never taken lightly. It requires meticulous preparation. You and one crewmate don your Mars EVA suits in the airlock chamber. These suits are bulky, multi-layered envelopes of life support, essentially personal spacecraft shaped like a human body. They weigh over 50 kilograms on Earth, but on Mars they feel like approximately 20 kg due to lower gravity. Even so, moving in one is laborious. The suit has a hard torso and joint bearings, but you still feel like a marshmallow astronaut, waddling rather than walking. Every movement costs energy. The suit's stiffness resists your bends and twists. You run through the pre-EVA checklist: radio check, oxygen flow, suit pressure, battery levels, tool tether secure. It takes a good 40 minutes just to get both of you ready. The habitat's internal pressure is lowered slightly, or you breathe pure O2 for a bit. This helps avoid the bends from nitrogen as you transition to the suit's lower pressure atmosphere. Finally, you seal your helmet. A brief hiss, and then you hear only your own breathing and the crackle of the comm. When all is set, you cycle the airlock. With a whoosh, the chamber equalizes with Martian air, which is less than 1% the density of Earth's and mostly CO2. The outer door grinds open, revealing a dim reddish landscape. You step onto Mars's surface. Even though you've done it many times, it still gives you a shiver. The sky has a butterscotch hue. The sun, smaller and cooler than you remember from home, hangs in the sky without much warmth. The ground is powdery dust and jagged rocks. In the distance, dusty hills fade into a pinkish haze. It's beautiful in a stark, alien way, but of course you can't truly feel this world on your skin. You're sealed off, viewing everything through a visor. The suit's readouts show a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius right now. It will barely climb to maybe -10 degrees Celsius by mid-afternoon. Without your suit, you'd be unconscious from lack of oxygen in seconds and dead within minutes. That thought keeps you focused. Outside, one misstep can be fatal. You walk carefully, mindful that the lower gravity can be deceptive. Objects are lighter, but they still have the same mass and inertia. If you trip, you won't fall as hard, but you could puncture your suit on a sharp rock or damage the life support backpack. Mars is unforgiving. A rip in your suit means your blood would literally boil in the near vacuum before you could make it back inside. So you shuffle deliberately, like an elderly person on ice rather than stride. Your task list for this EVA extravehicular activity is full. First, you make your way to an external panel on the side of the habitat. This contains the replaceable CO filter cartridge. It's about the size of a large briefcase. With thick gloves, your dexterity is clumsy. Handling tools feels like trying to write with oven mitts on. You unfasten latches and pull out the spent cartridge, then slot in a fresh one. It takes longer than it would in shirt sleeves, but you manage, sweat beads on your forehead as you concentrate. The suit's cooling system works hard to draw away heat. You recall stories of early spacewalks from NASA's archives. Astronauts who worked too hard sometimes overheated their suits, and even fogged up their visors from sweat. You're determined to work methodically to avoid that. Next, you both head to the solar panel array field, about 50 meters from the main habitat. Even this short walk is tiring in the suit. The panels are crucial. They provide the majority of your power. You find them coated in a thin film of reddish dust. Using a soft brush attachment on your tool, you begin sweeping the dust off the panels. In the feeble Martian wind, the finest particles settle everywhere. It's mundane work, akin to cleaning solar panels on a rooftop, except you're encumbered in a spacesuit doing it in sub-zero cold, under a radiation-bombarded sky, millions of kilometers from the nearest help. As you brush, you can't help but marvel and curse at Mars's dust. It's pervasive, gritty, and gets into every mechanism. The sun shield on your helmet reduces the harsh sunlight glare. Even at Mars's distance, unfiltered sunlight is intense on your eyes, but you can see the dust sparkling as it lifts and resettles. Suddenly, your partner's voice crackles in your helmet. "Hey, hold on a second. I need to adjust my suit thermostat. They're feeling a bit warm." You both pause, and this gives you a moment to look around. There is silence except for the faint whir of your suit fan. The environment is eerily still. Far off on the horizon, you notice a towering dust devil, a whirlwind picking up sand in a thin column. These are common on Mars, and while small ones aren't dangerous beyond maybe dusting your equipment, the sight is a reminder of how active Mars's environment can be. Despite its desolation, you watch it swirl and dissipate. Then you glance upward. The sky's color is a salmon orange, and if it were night you might spot Earth as a bright star. Right now, no stars are visible. but you know somewhere up there Earth is orbiting, and everyone you know lives under that blue sky, so far away. A pang of loneliness hits you in this moment of pause. Here you are in an alien desert, effectively alone, with an entire hostile planet stretching out in all directions. You shake off the thought and get back to work. Together, you finish cleaning the solar panels. Physical exhaustion is setting in. The suit is heavy, your muscles are working against the pressurized layers, and each movement is like resistance training. Your arms ache, and your hands are getting sore from gripping tools in the pressurized gloves. Astronauts often get bruised fingernails or lose nails after long EVAs because of the constant force needed to flex the glove. Breathing a bit heavily, you check your suit's oxygen gauge. Plenty left, but you shouldn't overexert and raise your CO2s too much. You signal to your partner that it's time to head back. There are a few more minor tasks on the checklist, like inspecting a small communications antenna and picking up a soil sample for a science experiment, but those can wait for another EVA. Mars has taught you the hard way that you must pace yourself. Overwork can be deadly if it causes a mistake. As you trudge back to the habitat airlock, you see your home on Mars from the outside, a modest collection of cylindrical modules half buried in regolith for protection. A few antennas and equipment boxes, the solar farm, and a parked pressurized rover vehicle. It's nothing like the sci-fi visions of a grand colony. It's essentially a small Antarctic research station, but on a barren world. A SpaceX Starship vehicle, now empty, stands landed not far away, covered in dust, the very ship that brought your crew here months ago. That towering silver rocket is both a reminder of how you arrived and a symbol of how difficult it was to get here. Starship is an engineering marvel that can carry up to 100 people and tons of cargo to Mars, but your crew was only 6 on this trip, along with supplies, a cautious first mission, nothing like a packed colony ship yet. You glance at it and know leaving Mars isn't as simple as climbing back aboard. The ship is mostly a lander storage now. It would need refueling and prep to make a return journey, which could be years away during the next launch window. In other words, you truly are stuck here for now. That realization is a cold companion as you cycle back through the airlock, returning inside the habitat around midday. After the multi-hour excursion outside, you're exhausted. It's now about 12:30 p.m. local time, Sol 68. You've burned hundreds of calories and lost a good amount of sweat, which the life support will dutifully capture from the air for tomorrow's water. Back in the pressurized habitat, you and your teammate peel off the EVA suits. There's a strict protocol for suit doffing. You unhook the life support pack, carefully step out of the suit's torso, and place the suit in a rack where its outer surface will be brushed and vacuumed to remove as much clinging dust as possible. Martian dust is not only a nuisance, but potentially toxic, laden with perchlorates and abrasive. You don't want it circulating inside your habitat. As you remove your helmet, you inhale the familiar plasticky metallic smell of the habitat's filtered air. It's actually a comforting smell now, the scent of safety. Your stomach rumbles. It's lunchtime. Food on Mars is functional, not fun, but you still look forward to refueling after hard work. Today's fare: a packet of lentil stew, pressure cooked on Earth and stored in a pouch, to be reheated, plus a handful of leafy greens. The greens are special. They came from your own greenhouse module. For the first time this week, you have a few fresh leaves of lettuce and spinach to add to your meal, harvested this morning by another crew member. You savor the crunch. A simple salad feels like a king's feast here. The crew's tiny hydroponic garden doesn't produce much, but it provides occasional tomatoes, lettuce, radishes, or herbs that boost both nutrition and morale. Still, no one will be growing a steak or a chocolate cake anytime soon. And fresh fruit, forget it, you haven't had an apple or orange in months. NASA's analog Mars simulations warn that crews won't have the luxury of fresh food deliveries, but will have the chance to grow some produce. That's exactly your situation, cherishing a few homegrown veggies in an otherwise monotonous diet. As you eat, you decide to use this brief break to reach out to Earth. Communication is a lifeline. Even if delayed, you compose a short video message for your family. You sit in front of a camera in the comm station. A small screen shows your mother's last message, where she joked about how your old room at home is now filled with storage boxes. You smile, then hit record. You keep it light. You don't mention your exhaustion or the finger you bruised during the EVA. No need to worry them. You describe the excitement of the morning dust devil you saw, and you hold up the lettuce like a trophy, thanking your dad for teaching you gardening basics that you now use on Mars. As you talk, you know they won't receive this until at least 15 minutes from now, depending on planetary alignment, and if they reply immediately, you'll see that no sooner than half an hour later. The conversation lags by hours at best, often days if people aren't available to respond right away. It's like exchanging long voicemails. You miss the immediacy of a loving voice answering you in real time. After sending your message, you check for any incoming communications. There's an email from Mission Control with technical questions about the habitat status logs you sent earlier. You'll respond to those later in writing. There's also a data packet with some news articles from Earth. Mission Support sends these periodically to keep you somewhat in the loop. You skim headlines, politics, sports, something about a movie release. It's a strange feeling. Life on Earth barrels forward, irrelevant to your daily struggle. At times you feel forgotten, like you live in a time capsule. The delay and distance create a gaping disconnect. The rest of humanity is effectively on a different timeline. Another world, literally. This can be deeply lonely. You recall a Guardian article you read during training. The Mars colonists will be the most isolated humans ever. Real-time interaction with people back home will be impossible. The shortest delay is about 10 minutes. How true that turned out to be. Social isolation is hitting you harder than any physical challenge. You have your crew, but you crave the comfort of your wider circle, friends, family. The simple pleasure of a phone call where someone can respond instantly to your voice. Here you're armed with patience and recordings. One of your crew, the designated commander, is using the break to record a status report for public outreach. In a corner of the hab, she's speaking to a camera about the team's accomplishments and how spirits are high. It's partly true. Your small successes, like growing lettuce or fixing a tricky circuit, do bring pride. But in your heart, you also know each of you suppresses a degree of dysphoria, a sort of low-level sadness or flatness that comes from being so far away and confined. Psychologists predicted this. When Earth is out of view for long periods, crew members can feel increased isolation, homesickness, and even depression. You've seen it in your teammates' eyes on the rough days. No one has had a breakdown, thankfully, but quiet moments sometimes bring tears. You've caught one tough colleague quietly crying while looking at a family photo. Out here, emotions are magnified, and yet you often feel you must hide them to maintain group morale. After all, if one of you loses it, there's no counselor readily available. Mental health support is limited to delayed telesessions or self-guided techniques. Professional help is a world away. Your lunch is finished. Before getting back to work, you take 10 minutes of personal downtime. Each crew member has an allowance of private time daily to write in a journal, listen to music, or just be alone as one can be in a habitat the size of a studio apartment. You climb to the small cupola window, one of the only windows in the habitat, to gaze outside. It's a thick quartz glass, tinted to filter radiation, but you can still see the stark Martian landscape beyond. No birds, no rustling leaves, no sounds at all. Sometimes you press your palm to the cool glass and imagine feeling a breeze, or the warmth of sun on your skin, simple sensations you can't directly have here. Instead, you feel the vibration of the air recycler through the structure. Mars is beautiful in its silence, but that silence can weigh on your soul. With a sigh, you push off and float back down, the partial gravity making you almost glide down the ladder. Time to get on with the rest of the day. If morning on Mars is about reactive maintenance, ensuring systems didn't break overnight and handling urgent tasks, the afternoon is about proactive work, keeping the colony running and inching towards self-sufficiency. By 2 p.m., you dive into one of your scheduled duties, tending the greenhouse. Even though you're not a botanist by training, Everyone on the crew learns the basics of plant care because fresh food and oxygen from plants are literally lifelines for a remote colony. The greenhouse module is a small climate-controlled cylinder attached to the habitat. Inside, under bright LED grow lights, you have racks of plants in hydroponic trays. Green is the rarest color on Mars, and here you're surrounded by it. It's soothing. You check the nutrient solution tanks and pH levels for the crops. There's a variety of hardy vegetables and legumes that have been chosen for fast growth and nutrition. Lettuce, spinach, kale, radishes, dwarf tomatoes, perhaps some beans or peas climbing trellises. You gently pollinate a few tomato flowers with an electric toothbrush. No bees here, of course. This is delicate, relaxing work compared to an EVA, but it carries its own pressure. These plants are not just experiments. They supplement your diet and help recycle CO8 into oxygen. Ideally, plants will handle a good share of air refreshing, as well as provide food, making the colony more sustainable. You recall how in the biosphere 2 experiment decades ago, 8 people tried to live sealed with their plants. They found it incredibly challenging but instructive. On Mars you have high-tech backups, machines for air and water, but one day future colonies hope to rely more on farming. So you take this seriously, carefully pruning dead leaves and noting any signs of plant stress to report to the team agronomist back on Earth who will get your data later and send advice. While trimming a row of salad greens, your mind drifts to the monotony of your daily diet. You fantasize about flavors, a fresh peach, a bar of chocolate, a sizzling pizza. Ironically, you've grown to really savor the mild herbs you cultivate. A sprinkle of basil or dill can make an otherwise bland freeze-dried meal feel a bit more alive. NASA's food scientist warned you all about this. Eating the same limited menu can crush morale and cause you to eat less. So you use every trick, combining ingredients in new ways, adding a dash of spices from your kit. Theme nights like Taco Tuesday, using flatbread and rehydrated beans. It helps, but by afternoon your stomach often growls again, and your taste buds feel bored. You push aside these thoughts and check the logs. Today, a new crop of radishes is ready to harvest. You pull them from their tray, small pinkish bulbs, but they smell wonderfully peppery. A few will be dinner treats tonight. Small victories. After greenhouse duty you join another crewmate in the workshop corner to troubleshoot some equipment issues. One item on the agenda: the 3D printer has been malfunctioning. This printer is crucial. It can fabricate replacement parts out of special polymers or metals using designs sent from Earth. Essentially, it's your colony's mini factory, enabling some self-reliance. Right now it's acting up, producing jagged, unusable parts. You suspect the fine dust has infiltrated its calibration, or the nozzle is partially clogged. Together, in your improvised workshop, a bench with tools strapped to the walls, a vise and diagnostic laptop, you start disassembling the printer's printhead. It's finicky work, but at least you're not in a spacesuit this time. You take a magnifier and delicately clean out the mechanism. Sure enough, a fine cake of Martian dust and burnt plastic is gumming it up. After careful cleaning and reassembly, you print a test piece, a small valve knob that is needed for the exercise bike, and it comes out smooth. Success. You log the maintenance performed. Moments like these, fixing a problem with your own hands, bring a sense of empowerment. Each repair is one less thing you depend on Earth for. In the back of your mind though, you worry, what if something breaks that you can't fix with your limited tools and spares? Mars has a way of turning minor issues into life-threatening ones if not managed. This printer, for example, might one day need a part that it can't print itself, a catch-22 you hope to avoid. Next, you address the waste processing unit maintenance, the task you noted in the morning. Donning gloves and a face mask, even in a small crew, the smell of the latrine can be overpowering. You open up the compartment that houses the waste treatment canister. This is the device that takes solid human waste and either stores it or processes it for potential use in fertilizing the greenhouse. Research is ongoing. Currently, strict protocols are in place to prevent pathogens, so much of it is just stored to be dealt with later. A clamp is loose, and some material has leaked. which explains a faint odor that's been around. It's a gross job, scraping and scrubbing in zero modesty, while your crewmate holds a light, but someone's got to do it. And guess what? There's no plumber or janitor to call. Out here, you are the janitor. This is one of those moments you think so much for the glamorous life of a space explorer. You tighten the clamp, apply sealant, and clean the area with a disinfectant wipe. The unpleasant task is done, and you can check it off the list. It strikes you on Earth. You might spend an afternoon reading, or going for a walk. Here you spend it fixing toilets and printers, farming algae, and monitoring water filters. The sheer volume of chores is overwhelming at times. As one Mars expert put it bluntly, life support maintenance will be a task that takes up a lot of the time of the settlers. Truth, you sometimes feel like a caretaker more than an explorer. By late afternoon, around 5 p.m., fatigue really sets in. You've been up and working, physically and mentally, for 11 hours with only a short break. This is fairly standard. Mars missions are not for the lazy or faint of heart. The team still needs to get in their exercise session for the day to keep your bodies from deteriorating. Every day, each crew member is scheduled for at least an hour of exercise, usually split between cardiovascular treadmill or stationary bike and resistance, a specialized weight machine that uses vacuum tubes to simulate lifting weights in low gravity. As tired as you feel, you know skipping exercise isn't an option. NASA learned on ISS that without exercise, astronauts suffer dramatic muscle and bone loss. Mars' gravity is higher than 0 G, but scientists suspect you'll still lose bone density over time here, albeit more slowly. To be safe, you all stick to rigorous workout routines. You climb onto the treadmill, strapping yourself to it with a harness so you don't float off with each step. Mars' gravity is enough to keep you down, but the harness provides additional loading to simulate Earth weight, per the exercise protocol. As you jog in place, listening to music in your headphones, you glance at the habitat around you. Your crewmate is cycling on the bike. Another is lifting on the resistance machine. It almost looks like a normal gym scene, except you're all in matching jumpsuits. One wall has a rack of spacesuit helmets, and out the small window you see a pink sky and barren land. Sweat beads on your forehead again. You'll need another sponge bath after this. Physical exhaustion is a daily reality, but you push through knowing it's literally preserving your body. A part of you finds a meditative rhythm in the exercise. It's one of the few moments you can zone out and not think about tasks or dangers. Your mind drifts. Below to Earth. Often during exercise you deliberately visualize a run in your hometown or a bike ride through a forest. Mental escapism. It helps keep you sane. Studies and analog missions taught you these coping mechanisms to stave off the mental strain of monotony and confinement. Some days are easier. This afternoon you find it hard. Why am I here? You think briefly. The dream of being part of something historic, expanding humanity's frontiers, motivated you to join this mission. But in the grind of daily survival, that grand purpose can blur. You remind yourself that every struggle today is paving the way for future colonists, maybe in a decade or two, who will have slightly better conditions because of what you're learning now. We are pioneers, you think, and pioneering is never easy. Finally, the timer beeps. Workout done. You unstrap, panting and drenched. Your muscles ache, that good post-exercise ache, mixed with the strain of the day's labor. One crew member jokes, "At least we don't need a sauna, just wear the EVA suit for an hour." You chuckle. These little jokes, subtle perhaps, but they form a crucial part of your group dynamic. A mildly dramatic but humorous tone has evolved among you. It's a coping mechanism. For example, when something breaks, someone might quip, "Mars just wants to kill us a little." As a treat, you all smirk at that dark humor, because it's essentially true. Everything here is trying to kill you. The environment, the radiation, the isolation, yet you answer with a wry smile and fix the problem. It's the only way to stay sane. Evening falls on Mars, though fall is just the light outside dimming to a darker orange, as you can't step out to feel a cool breeze. Inside, the habitat grows quiet, as each of you finishes up the day's last tasks. Around 7 p.m., the crew reconvenes for dinner, making it a point to eat together at the main table, an important social ritual to maintain camaraderie. Tonight's menu: rehydrated mushroom risotto, more like a thick soup with rice, with those freshly harvested radish slices on top for crunch. And one packet of powdered orange drink, split among the group. You're running low on that treat, so it's become a special occasion item. Everyone is clearly tired. A couple of you have minor aches and pains. One person's back is sore. The low gravity can cause weird posture issues, and all that bending in the greenhouse didn't help. Another has a lingering headache, maybe mild dehydration, or just stress. The habitat's medical supplies are limited, so you save painkillers for when truly needed. Instead, you rely on stretching, hydration, and rest. Over dinner, the conversation drifts. It's usually a rule to avoid work talk at dinner, to give a mental break. So you might discuss a book you're all reading. Each person has an e-reader loaded with hundreds of books. Entertainment is crucial when you can't go anywhere. Or you share stories. Inevitably, they circle back to earth memories, a funny college incident, a favorite meal, a family tradition. These stories comfort and torture at the same time. They bring laughter, but also remind you of what's out of reach. Privacy is scarce, but at the table you sometimes find moments of intimacy in conversation. One crewmate admits, in a soft moment, that they really miss rain. "I used to love falling asleep to the sound of rain on my roof. I can barely remember what that sounds like," they say. You nod in agreement, picturing it. Another jokes, "Well, we had a leak in the greenhouse last month. That was kind of like rain indoors." There's a round of chuckles. Humor is subtle but ever present, often as irony or gentle teasing. It has to be. It's a psychological survival tool. Without it, the constant stress might crack someone open. After dinner, it's time for a quick crew conference. You all gather around a computer and have a scheduled communication session with Mission Control, or rather you record a session that they will review and reply to by the next day. You discuss the day's accomplishments, the replaced CO filter, the fixed printer, the greenhouse status. You also voice any concerns. One member brings up their frequent headaches. The flight surgeon on Earth will evaluate that and send suggestions. Perhaps our CO5 levels creeping up could cause mild headaches if scrubbers lag, or it could be stress. You mention the dust accumulation outside is faster than anticipated, perhaps needing more frequent cleaning. Mission Control usually replies with a bundle of suggestions and encouragement. They might be far away, but they are your support team, devouring the data you send and trying to help solve problems. Still, ultimately it's down to you 4 or 6 living it each day. The sunlight outside is waning. Mars has longer twilights due to all that dust scattering light, so for a while the sky turns a deep golden then brownish as darkness creeps in. Through the small porthole you see Phobos, one of Mars's moons, rising. It's just a tiny potato-shaped rock tumbling across the sky, but its quick transit Phobos orbits in just 7 hours is something you've grown fond of watching when you get a chance. Somehow its regular pass is reassuring, a celestial routine in a life that's anything but normal. By 9 p.m., the crew shifts into personal time. One person might use the makeshift shower, a cubicle where you can use a minimal water spray and vacuum dry, more of a rinse than a shower. Another writes an email to their spouse back on Earth. You decide to record a short video diary entry on your tablet, something many astronauts do to process their thoughts. In it, you speak candidly. These diaries are largely private, though some may be shared later as documentation of human experience on Mars. You talk about the day's challenges. Today was hard, woke up sore, spent hours in the suit scrubbing solar panels under a peach sky. I caught myself thinking of home a lot while on the treadmill. I miss the wind. As you say it aloud, you realize how much you do miss weather, even the inconvenience of rain or the chill of winter. Mars has weather, but it's alien, cold, dry, often invisible but deadly radiation, thin air. You continue. I worry about how we'll cope if the water recycler fails again, but I'm proud we fixed the 3D printer. Small steps. You end the entry on a hopeful note, as you always try to, one day at a time. That's how we get through this. Then you stow the tablet. It's now close to lights out inside the habitat. The LED lights are dimmed to a soft, warm glow to help everyone wind down and keep a circadian rhythm. You float into your personal cubicle, your little sanctuary the size of a closet with a thin curtain door. Inside is your sleeping bag strapped to the wall, though in Mars gravity you could lie down. Space is tight, so vertical sleeping is still practical. You have a small pillow, a few personal items velcroed to the wall, a family photo, a small stuffed animal from your childhood, maybe a scent pouch that smells like pine trees to remind you of Earth. As you zip into your sleeping bag, you mentally tally the day. You survived. The major tasks are done, the habitat is stable, no one is injured, well, except that bruised finger and a lot of sore muscles. By all measures it was a good day on Mars. No emergencies, and yet, it was extremely hard, physically punishing, mentally draining, emotionally taxing, and you have to do it all over again tomorrow. You tap your tablet to read something before sleep. Perhaps a sci-fi novel about explorers on Mars, how ironic. But after just a few pages, your eyes are heavy. The fatigue in your body is bone deep. Mars wears you out like nothing you've experienced. There's a reason only highly trained, peak-conditioned people were sent. And still, you feel at the edge of your limits. You reach up and turn off your personal light. In the near darkness, a faint green glow from some indicator lights outside your cubicle casts shadows. It's never truly dark or quiet in the habitat. Fans are whirring constantly to circulate air. Pumps turn on and off. A gentle vibration from the life support can be felt. It's like trying to sleep next to an always-on appliance. Some nights you lie awake despite exhaustion, your mind racing, replaying a problem, or drifting into worry. What if that small headache is a sign of something? What if a dust storm knocks out more panels than you can fix? What if someone back home falls ill while you're stuck here? Anxiety is a constant companion on Mars, kept at bay only by strict routines and mental discipline. Tonight, however, you're too tired to fret much. You do take a moment to gaze at a tiny porthole above your head, one that peeks straight up at the Martian sky. Amazingly, through it you can see stars begin to appear as the sun fully sets. On Mars, the stars don't twinkle. The atmosphere is too thin, so they're piercing points of light. Somewhere among them is Earth's sunlit side. You wonder, is someone you love looking up at the sky right now too, thinking of you? The thought is both comforting and heartbreaking. You whisper softly, "Good night," perhaps imagining saying it to them. There's no response, just the low drone of machines. Before you close your eyes, you remind yourself of the why you're here, why enduring all this might be worth it. Maybe it's the spirit of exploration, to prove humans can live on new worlds. Maybe it's for science. The experiments you conduct could lead to breakthroughs benefiting Earth and future Mars settlers. Or maybe it was personal, a chance to do something extraordinary, and indeed, living on Mars is the most extraordinary and extraordinary difficult thing you've ever done. These thoughts help steel your resolve. It takes a special kind of stubbornness to face Mars each day, and you have it, at least you do today. As you drift off, the narrator's voice might say, "In the quiet of the Martian night, you finally allow yourself to rest. Today you manage to survive and hold onto a shred of sanity, but tomorrow will bring another dawn, another relentless fight to stay alive, so far from home. You hope your sleep will be sound, but you know it might be broken by the chime of an alert if something goes awry at night. Even in sleep, the colony demands vigilance. One crew is always on a light overnight watch rotation. Tonight, it's not your turn, so you gladly surrender to sleep, trusting your crewmate to handle any alarms for a few hours. And so, one day on Mars ends. It was just one day, yet it felt like a week's worth of labor and a month's worth of loneliness. On Earth, people often daydream about living on Mars, picturing heroic adventures and spectacular views. The reality is far different. It's a constant grinding challenge that pushes every facet of your being. You are far from loved ones, working long hours to maintain basic life support, exposed to radiation that you cannot see but must fear, eating a dull diet with the same flavors endlessly repeating, breathing recycled air, and drinking recycled water. Yes, your coffee truly is yesterday's coffee. You toil in a bulky suit to do tasks that on Earth would be trivial, and you do it all while coping with isolation, confinement, and zero privacy. Even your mind is not free, it's under stress, fighting off homesickness and anxiety. Every single day on Mars is this demanding. There are no weekends, no spontaneous outings, no convenience of calling a repairman or ordering takeout. The entire environment is hostile to human life, so you must bend and adapt to Mars. Mars will not adapt to you. By walking through this one day, you've seen that being a Mars colonist is not about bravado or adventurous strolls under an alien sky. It's about maintenance, resilience, and sheer mental fortitude. The psychological toll may be the greatest challenge of all. The knowledge that this harsh routine repeats again tomorrow and the next day, with no easy way back home. Social isolation and confinement can brew depression and instability, and only a strong sense of purpose and camaraderie keeps it at bay. Mars will test you in every way, physically, with exhausting labor and reduced gravity effects, emotionally with isolation and monotony, and intellectually constant problem-solving to overcome failures. So, if you think you could handle it, ask yourself, could you truly thrive in these conditions, or even just endure? For most, the honest answer, after experiencing a day like this, would be no. You wouldn't last a day as a Mars colonist. Not because you're weak, but because Mars demands superhuman dedication and sacrifices that go beyond what a normal day on Earth ever asks of you. It's the ultimate reality check for the ultimate adventure. Mars is beautiful, yes, but unforgiving. You've survived one day on this red world, a feat of grit and determination. Now you know just how hard-won that survival is, and why few could endure it. Tomorrow, when the Martian sun rises again, the struggle resumes, and that is why you wouldn't last a day as a Mars colonist.